Okay, so in this video we're going to be talking further about the paintbrush. We're going to really look into some of the options for the paintbrush and brush presets, brush options. Now, straightforward paintbrush we've already talked about, right? Hard edge, soft edge, okay, fine. But if you've right-clicked and noticed, there's some other fun-looking stuff down here, and I think one best ways to point some of it out is really just to go right here to this little default leaf brush here. 74 pixels, and you can see it's kind of small on the page. So let's make that a little bit bigger. I can kind of hover over. I can see the basic size of this leaf then. Alright, and I'm going to draw, and wow, I'm drawing with leaves. Alright, it's a little strange, but pretty as well, I think. And we can just kind of draw. We could fill the whole thing with leaves at some point. You might, let's see about what's happening here with this brush. I look over here and I've got the color, kind of this reddish magenta color, but when I look here I'm seeing some purples and oranges. So let's look over here at our brush palette kind of tool box here. We have brush presets. We're going to kind of ignore that for now. This is some of those. But we're going to look at the brush itself and take a look at what's happening. Okay, so one, right here we can see spacing and we can see orientation. So the spacing, if I was to move this slider, it would show me that the leaves are going to get more spaced out when I draw. So there they are, they space out a little bit more. Let's kind of clear that out a little, and let's drag this over. Come on, I don't want you to snap into anything. There we go. There I can see what's going on. So here's my brush preset. So we added a little spacing, and now when I draw, I get more space in between theirs. But I see small, large, and different colors. All right, so how is that happening? We have, let's look at scattering. All right, so it's scattering on both axes, and it's scattering up and down. So here, look at that. So the more I scatter, the wider apart this is going to be, and then the tighter I make this, the less scatter. So if I wanted this to really be more of like a border, I might kind of tighten up my scattering. Okay, that way these aren't, they're not too spread apart. So that's the scatter option for our brush preset. Shape dynamics. Let's take a look. What does this thing do? So again, I'm just going to clear that out. I'm hitting Command Delete to fill with white here is what I'm doing to clear that out. So shape dynamics. We talk about size jitter. So the size jitter is 100%. So remember I had said we had very small and very large. So it's giving a max size jitter based on the pixels. So let's just kind of crank that down and give this size jitter just, I don't know, 20%. And let's see what we get. And now when we draw, I don't get too many of those really little ones. And most of the sizes are pretty close to the same, right? Whereas with this really cranked up, I start to get a much more variety of size. Okay, some little ones, some big ones. Okay, so that's size jitter. Minimum diameter, and these are going to be dealing with pen pressure if you're dealing with a tablet, which we're not doing. An angle jitter if you're dealing with a once again with a tablet. We don't have that. At least I don't have that in this system currently, so I'm not showing you that. So let's look at. There should also be, where is it, under scattering, I think there's the scatter, the count, how many. So if I increase the count on this, I'm going to get a lot denser, okay, many more. And the count jitter, I can turn how many of those I'd like. Just go to brush tip. I think there's something that talks about angle, and I can't remember. I guess maybe that was under the shape dynamics, the amount of angle jitter. Yeah, so there it is. So if I turn this down, if I turn it down to 0, they're pretty much going to all be in the same line. Yeah, see, they all point up because that's the direction I'm going. Whereas if I put this at like 50%, my angle jitter, some will be up, some will be down, not as much angle. And then with 100% angle jitter, that means these can be in any direction. All right, so I'm going to find these in all 360-degree rotation. Okay, so that's how you deal with that. So the last thing we need to really look at is color. How are we getting color? So here it is. It's a hue jitter. All right, and it's at 13%, which means it's going to basically look at, if we were to think of a rainbow. Okay, so We have a little bit of a rainbow here we can look at. Notice I'm really not getting any blues or greens when I draw. Okay, it's really looking at the color red here, because that's what's picked over here. It's looking at this color here, and it's saying what colors on either side of this are there. There's some oranges on one side and some pinkish blues on the other side, and that's where it's getting. So it's saying hue jitter of 13%. It's only getting 13% of the spectrum. If I go this 100% of the spectrum, in theory, I should get all, there they are. It's like a rainbow, okay? 100% hue jitter means it will pick any color in the spectrum to draw with, okay? Probably not great for leaves because we don't usually have blue leaves, but would work really great for gumballs. But for leaves, yeah, I might really choose to, if I want to do fall leaves, I might want to keep that, you know, down and pick a color that is very fall leavish, you know, kind of a red, maybe something like, maybe something more like in there, like a kind of an orangey color. And now with 10%, there we go, I'm getting fall leaf colors, a little oranges, a little yellows, a little reds, but no strange greens or blues because I want fall colors. So that's how I can control that hue jitter right there, based off of the color that is chosen. Pretty cool. Transfer, I'm not going to really worry about that right now. Most of it's turned off anyway. Smoothing, this is naturally turned on. This really just affects the, it's more for pens on tablets for smoothing your line. It does work a little bit with the mouse. That will mean that when you paint, your paintbrush will be a little bit smoother and hopefully less jagged when drawing, but it tends to be more evident when using a tablet and pen brush. Okay, so those are our paintbrush options here, and that applies to no matter what paintbrush that you use here. So let's just clear this out and let's just prove that. We're going to take a regular old paintbrush here and we're just going to make it a dot. We have a regular paintbrush. So now I'm going to turn on some scattering. Okay, so now when I draw, I'm drawing with dots there. Okay, I can see that. I'm going to go to my shape dynamics and I'm going to turn on size jitter. So now I'll get various, I should start getting some various size dots. There they are. And turn my minimum diameter up a little bit so that I get some more. Angle's not going to matter because it's a circle. So no matter what rotation, it'll be the same. Shape dynamics, under my shape tip, I want the spacing, I want to just kind of spread that out a little bit so that they're a little bit more spread. Kind of spread that out too along my scatter. And there we go. Now I'm going to start painting with some different dots. Great. So let's turn on that, where's our hue color dynamics, and turn on hue jitter. Let's crank that baby up and make some gumballs, all right, or confetti. Okay, so there they are. Fun to play with. You can play with transfer, brush pose. Some of this stuff I don't even really know what it does because I don't play with it enough. I don't look at it enough. Dual brush allows you to combine different types of brushes, the dot and a whole nother brush. It gets even more layered and more confusing. But this will definitely get you started looking at paintbrushes, right? And how you could kind of create your own paintbrushes and paint in a neat and funky way. Paintbrushes in Photoshop.